Welcome to the DNA show.
DNA? Dude, are we doing a science show?
No, D is for Dennis.
Oh, A is for Andy.
And N is for and?
Oh, man, nerds. Because we're
yeah.
nerds, dude.
Yeah. Well, good. Then we can talk about comics and movies and pop culture and sports.
Sports. Sports and nerds. Yeah, we're going to make that work.
All right, let's roll.
All right, welcome back to the Dennis and Andy show. I'm Andy with my buddy.
Near Dennis, and it's episode 4.
Ooh, number 4 already. So I want to start off with a little personal story. Something near and dear to me. We're in the old shelter in place, and hospitals aren't doing elective surgeries and stuff, and I had a medical incident.
Whoa, no! What kind of a medical incident?
I had to have a small surgery done.
Oh, no!
And my wife was the doctor that did the surgery.
Now, just so we understand, she's not a doctor in real life.
Oh, no. She only plays one on TV.
I thought so.
Yeah, she likes watching doctor shows. So the incident I had, she just stepped right up to the plate. And what happened was, on my index finger of my drawing hand, I had something I've never had before. Ever. On my fingers, ever.
A cramp?
I've had cramps.
Oh, okay.
Almost monthly, you could say, which is weird being a dude. But anyhow, that's a different subject. No, I had an ingrown fingernail. I've never had that before. So since I never have, I was just looking at my finger, the tip of my finger, and I'm like, why is it swelling up? And why does it hurt so much?
You've never had an ingrown nail, fingernail, toenail ever before?
No, I chew those babies down to the nub. I make sure they're nice and tight.
Wow. So how did you know it was an ingrown nail since you've never had one?
That's where Dr. Helen Smith comes in. I was like, what is going on with my finger? And she looked at it, she goes, you got an ingrown nail. And I'm like, but nails grow straight out. Why is the left side of my finger? And she goes, because it's she goes, yeah, dummy. They grow straight out, but they grow to the sides as well. And that side of your nail got underneath. So it's ingrown. And I'm like, oh.
So what did she have to do?
Well,
chainsaw?
Before anything, I wanted home remedies that didn't involve an X-Acto knife by any means. So I Googled stuff and it said, soak your finger in warm water like 20 minutes twice a day. It said stuff like, it definitely said soak because I did do that. Oh, it said, put some antibiotic cream on it and put a Band-Aid around it. So I tried that for a couple days. It just wasn't happening. It still hurt. It wasn't affecting my drawing, luckily, because I don't hold the pencil really tight. But it hurt and it ached. So she's like, let me see it. And I'm like, all right. She goes up into her makeup area and comes down with these real sharp tweezers. I'm like, well, wait, you want to tell me what you plan on doing before you do something so I know? And she's like, I'm just going to pull the skin aside and pop it and try to ooze stuff out. And I'm like, ew, this sounds like it could hurt.
Yep.
And so I'm like, and my daughter, she's loving it. She's like, I want to take my phone out and do a video. And I'm like, whatever. So she starts videoing, and I'm like, well, can I at least put some ice on it so I can, numb it? My wife's like, just no, I don't have all day. I've got to get back to work. This is during the day. She's like, I got to get back to work. Just shut up, baby. And I'm like, it's easy for you to say that when you're doing your Dr. Pimple Popper on my finger. So she starts picking at it, and she was right. It started oozing some white, gooey stuff. But it hurt.
Oh, pus. You had the pus.
It hurt. And I'm like, okay, can I please just stop? I want to put ice on it. I'm like, I'm not tearing up by any means. But I'm literally clenching the other hand into a tight fist. I almost wish I had something to bite down on. I'm a wuss. I don't like pain of any sort. And she's like, just shut up. It's almost over. She goes, hold on, let me get a needle. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Gotta dig it out.
I know, and she was. So long story short, she did take care of it. It oozed out. The swelling went down some, but not as much as I thought it would. And then, here we are 4 or 5 days later. My finger looks absolutely normal. There's nothing wrong with it.
Huh.
But it reminded me of another instance when I was a kid. And I don't know what it is with my family. I was like, 13, 14. And on my left-hand index finger, it's always my index fingers, I cut the tip of my finger really bad. And my dad, now, unlike Helen, my dad was an actual registered nurse. And he's like, well, we could go to the ER because it definitely needs a couple stitches. And I'm like, or what? He goes, I could cauterize it.
Oh.
And I'm like,
oh,
I didn't know what that meant.
Blowtorch. That's what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I probably saw it in Rambo. I think in the first Rambo movie, he had to cauterize something. All those tough guys do. And I'm like, all right. So he gets a paper clip out and gets a lighter and just underneath that paper clip for a bit and gets it nice and hot. And he doesn't tell me he's about to do it. He does it, and my hand goes flying out of his hand and almost whacks my brother in the face. Because obviously my brother had to watch, And he's like, you got to hold still. Now my dad's yelling at me, because that always works when your kid's upset. He's like, you got to hold still. What are you doing? And I'm like, you did not give me any forewarning.
Which is the best way. Surprise.
Yeah, but he wasn't holding my hand or anything, so it wouldn't move. Then he holds it, and I turn away, and we put a Band-Aid on it, and it worked. He cauterized it.
All right. So, $1 million question. All right. You're getting your fingers worked on. When you're all done, you're done with the pain. Did you just clean it out with peroxide, or did you go through and put on the methylate?
Oh, I never knew. That's the stuff that when you put it on, it turned red, right? It left that ugly red color, so everybody knew you had some type of scrape or injury.
Exactly. So for those in the audience not old enough, when we were younger, if you scraped your knee or you did something to your fingernail or you did your knuckles or cut anything, you'd come in the house, say, Mom, look what I did. She would clean it off with paper towels or whatever like that, a little bit of soap. And she pulls out this bottle. And it's called, we can remember it. It's called methylate.
Yeah.
And we'll put a posting of a picture of it because there's a great meme out there dealing with this. But it was this medical concoction that it was like, think of painting your fingernails, how they have a little brush. It was a bottle with brush. Yeah. And you would sit there and you would put it on and then like a dropper / brush, and it would turn your skin really pink.
Yeah.
The problem is that it cleaned it out, which is what it was supposed to do. But it did it in such an incredibly painful way. The cure was always way more painful than the actual scrape or abrasion or cut that you had to put it on. And then you put a Band-Aid. So I would be sitting there, and if you blew on it, that really helps because for whatever reason, air made it cool down quicker and didn't hurt quite as much. So I would be squinting, and my mom would be putting it on there, and I'd already be blowing on it before it even got down in there.
Yeah, I remember that stuff. I rode bikes a lot as a kid. And, when you're a kid, you don't have, obviously, the life experience because you haven't experienced anything. And I remember as a kid, every summer, school's out, summertime, and this is talking 8 years old on to early teens before I could drive, getting out on my bike, riding my bike. And it just was ingrained in my head that it was the summer of scabs because every year going back to school, my legs would be beat up from falling off my bike or rough housing outside. I mean, dude, kids are, and I've had that stuff on my knees, on my elbows, because unlike today where you see kids out there with helmets and shoulder pads and knee pads, there's none of that garbage. It was just go ride your bike. There was no helmet. I mean, they had them, I guess, but nobody wore them.
We never wore them.
No. And you just would skin up, scrape up everything. And now it's just, hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hydrogen
that's what my wife put on my finger.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, is that going to hurt? And she's like, I don't know, it shouldn't. And it didn't. You know, that stuff doesn't really hurt. But that stuff from when we were kids was, yeah. It was
I don't know if they still make it because I don't remember seeing it in the stores. They should, just because everybody should experience, but you had to grow up from, the 70s and 80s. I mean, that's when merthiolate was a big deal. But yeah, kind of miss those days because my kids haven't got to experience it.
Oh, no, my kid hasn't. Okay, so my daughter, she'll be 17 in a couple weeks, she puts a Band-Aid on for literally anything. No, dude, I'm not kidding. She'll come home from school and be like, and she shows it to you. It's not like you just have to, you look at her. She wears shorts, look at her and be like, why do you have a Band-Aid? She'll get in the car when I pick her up and be like, I got a Band-Aid today. And I'm like, why? She goes, oh, I scraped into something. I'm like, well, was it bleeding? She goes, no, but it hurt. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't need a Band-Aid if something hurts. You only need it if it's bleeding. I mean, you could literally poke her with a pen and you get that small little pinprick, which is going to clot on most people. I mean, there's that small percentage that has a clotting problem, but she's not one of those. I'm not, my wife's not. So it's going to clot like that. And she'll go run to the bathroom, put a Band-Aid on it. And 2 days later, she still has to have it on. And it's like, it's clotted. You don't need it. The kid puts a Band-Aid on for anything.
But now, do you have regular Band-Aids, or do you have like special Band-Aids, like Star Wars and superhero Band-Aids?
She's almost 17, so she's out of those.
Oh, okay.
She did have them for the longest time. Because, I mean, as a parent, well, I think that's a mom thing. When I would have to buy Band-Aids at the grocery store or whatever, when she was a kid, I just, path of least resistance. Oh, Band-Aids.
Yes.
And then, well,
Band-Aid
I take
brand.
No, it's a two-step process for me because I'm cheap.
Yep.
It's Band-Aids, and then right next door to that is the store brand Band-Aid.
The generic Band-Aid.
So I go, oh, Band-Aids. Oh, Band-Aid brand. Oh, look at that. Generic is at least 75 cents or whatever less. That's the one I'll be taking. Whereas my wife would be like, oh, look, ponies. Or, oh, Powerpuff this. Or whatever. And I'm like, who cares?
My daughter, it was Disney princesses, and my son, it was Star Wars.
Oh, they're just banned. Yeah, but were you buying them or was your wife? That was you.
Whoa. I always looked for Star Trek Band-Aids and couldn't find any.
Yeah, I was going to say, no luck.
No, they didn't have it. Every once in a while, but no, like it was my kids who would pick them out. So if they were there, they'd be like, ooh, we want that.
Oh, yeah. Dude, you never take your kids to a store when you have to buy stuff. Because you're not walking out of there on the cheap. They're always looking for stuff. They're always throwing stuff into the cart. And it doesn't matter. You could be like, no, we'll play it safe. We're going to Target, but we're not going to go down the toy aisle. We'll play it safe. You walk down the Band-Aid aisle, and it's like, oh, Powerpuff Girl Band-Aids. You're like, duh, I thought I was going to get out of here. And it's not even because we needed them. She just sees them, and it's like, I got to have them. And you're like, well, I guess we'll use them at some point.
And then for my son, I would have to see if he had Powerpuff Girls, then we need the Rowdy Rough Boys.
That's right. You made that up, right? There wasn't any.
No, sure was.
Rowdy Rough Boy? I've never heard of the Rowdy Rough Boy.
Those were from the Powerpuff Girl TV show.
Bullshit. They were literally in the cartoon?
Yeah. So
the
all
Rowdy
your
Rough
Powerpuff
Boys?
They were identical. Of course, they had their version of Bubbles and Buttercup, and they had to have guy versions of it in an episode.
This is
Rowdy Rough Boys.
The first time I've ever heard of them.
Well,
and they didn't try to spin those off to a cartoon of their own? That is surprising.
Not that I know of, and if anybody knows differently, put a comment up.
One thing I can't find, and I've done Google searches for it, and this is staying kind of on topic, because we moved from my surgery to the painful stuff, I can't even pronounce it, that was used as a kid that Dennis brought up, to now the different brands. But it got me thinking, one of my favorite cereals as a kid was, I think it was called Sugar Crisp. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, Sugar Crisp. So it had the Sugar Crisp bear.
It was a bear. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember, and they still put stuff in cereal boxes so the kids pester the parents to buy it. But back then, they had T-shirt iron-ons. And Iron-On was a super sugar bear. Do you remember him?
Absolutely. I remember Sugar Bear.
Super Sugar Bear.
Super Sugar, yes.
Super Sugar Bear. There's a difference, because Sugar Bear, if you Google search him, just a bear. I believe he's wearing a blue sweater or something, whatever. But Super Sugar Bear I love because he was jacked.
Yep.
Right? And because I love comic books as a kid and superheroes, I love Super Sugar Bear. I can't find him when I Google search. I've been trying to find just an image of those patches, just to download to have. And I can't find the damn things anywhere.
Really?
Did you just find it?
Yep.
No, you found... Dude, I'm talking about Super Sugar Bear.
No. I had to because I wanted to give you the name.
Powerpuff.
Oh,
Super Sugar Bear.
Rowdy Rough Boys. So we'll come back to Sugar Bear. So the Rowdy Rough Boys, there were three of them. They were the equivalents. It was Brick, because I couldn't remember the names. Boomer, which had a different meaning back then. And then Butch. Butch. Those were the three boys. They were identical colors, only they were the male versions.
Wait. They couldn't have been identical colors, because wasn't one of the Powerpuff Girls pink?
Pink. Well, no? It was blue. I mean, am I wrong? Well, it was blue, red, and green.
Oh, that's what the colors of the Powerpuff Girls were? Blue, red, and green?
Yeah, well, the girls were technically light blue, orange, and green.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the boys are a darker, you can call it orange, but it's almost a red, a darker green, and a darker blue.
Oh, all right. See, so while you did that, I Google searched Super Sugar Bear. He comes up as just the bear with a shirt with a blue sweater on, and in white lettering it says Sugar Bear. But I can't find Super Sugar Bear, and he was a jacked out version. I remember the patches like yesterday, but I can't find them. No, I found one! I take it back! I found my Super Bear! He didn't... No! He busted out of the sweater! It says, get ready for Super Bear, and he doesn't have the sweater on. But dude, Dennis, that's the patch I had!
Yes, that is him! Yes!
Yes!
Now the question is, what year was that from?
Oh, Sugar Bear?
Because... I mean, we grew up with Sugar Bear.
80s, late 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Easily. But I still... Do they still sell
You mean the Iron-On?
Yeah, the Iron-On.
You mean that Iron-On?
Yes! I had that as a kid on a t-shirt.
So, for those of you...
I might have to do a drawing of Super Sugar Bear now.
You should. The same drawing. Make them just like that.
Oh, no. Well, in my style, of course.
Well, of course. The Andy Smith style.
I'm going to.
But these were Iron-On, so... Yeah. All right. So, today it's just not as fun as when we were kids. So, there were two types of cereal prizes. You had the one where you had to eat all the cereal because they had something included in the box at the very bottom of the bag, which we never do. We opened up the box, never dumped it. I just stuck my hand all the way to the bottom, and you felt around, touching every piece of cereal. Then you get it out, pull it out, wrap the cereal back up, and put it in the cupboard. The other one, like this, they were Iron-Ons on the back of the cereal box, so you didn't have to go digging through it. All you did was cut it out, and then you would have your mother, you'd get a t-shirt or whatever, and she would grab an iron, heat it up, put it right over it, and they would iron it right onto it, and they would flip it over. They were awesome.
Or knee patches.
Oh, yeah.
Patches. Who does that? Oh, my God. We were kids. It was so embarrassing. You'd go to school, and your mom would be like, oh, you got a hole in your knee of your jeans, and she'd patch it with the ugliest patch. Nothing even cool. And now it's just cool to have holes in your jeans.
Right.
People buy them that way, Dennis.
Yeah, my mom just got fed up, so she cut up like one of my old jeans and turned them into patches. And then whenever I put holes in them, she would just sit there and sew another patch right on it.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Super! I'm so glad we thought about that. I found the patch. I am going to do a drawing of Super Bear in my style. That is going to be awesome.
You know, if we're going to do that, then I think we might have to do a really fun drawing. Another favorite cereal from that day was Frankenberry, Boo Berry, and Count Chocula.
Count Chocula, yeah.
Count Chocula. They were great. Now, you can't find them in the stores very often now. Just at Halloween time, they seem to be bringing them back out every Halloween for the last few years.
Wow. you must have missed this, which surprises me being a comic book guy. Well, it wasn't in comic shops, that's probably why. But Google, it was about 3-4 years ago, they actually had each one of those characters, Boo Berry, Frankenberry, and Count Chocula, redesigned by comic book artists.
Oh!
And they were on the cereal boxes. I'm pretty sure my buddy Dave Johnson did one. I want to say Jim Lee did one.
I remember Jim Lee. I remember did Boo Berry.
And then I think Dave did Count Chocula. I can't remember about Frankenberry though. But yeah, they had them redesigned a few years ago and put on the boxes and stuff.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Ha!
The more you know. We gotta get sound effects.
We do.
We're lame.
We do. All right. So I think it's time to let you know what I did this weekend.
Ooh,
so,
that sounds...
First of all, we started out, it was such a nice day, I had to put grass plugs in.
Okay.
So we got the grass plugs, spent the entire day doing that.
Wait, hold on, back up. So you got the plugs that you pop in and they're supposed to be like, but like an inch apart or so? I've never done grass plugs.
So I did 2x2 inch plugs. So instead of seating, because you can overseat and stuff like that, it was perfect weather. I'm going to put Zoysia in. So you get plugs, and they're about 2x2 inches.
Yeah.
So you have to dig down.
Do you have is there like a specific little
a plugger?
There is.
Yeah, I bought one. And so you go down and it pulls up. I bought a 3x3 plugger, and you pull it up. Then you can put it in there, and you have to pack it all down, the dirt back down around it. But it already has a root system,
right?
So it'll probably take much better than like if you sod something, you know, you just put it over the top and down. Or if you seed it, which seeding isn't all that effective, you know, you only get like 10 to 15% growth out of it. So anyway, that was an entire day project going around watering everything, getting it moist, plugging everything up, putting the plugs down, putting it down, rewatering. So that was my day.
Area did you do?
Well, I'm doing the front because we have a hard time going front of the house.
Dude, I know. That's a lot of work.
It was. And that's just the front part. I've got another batch that's coming because I've got an area back by the fire pit and stuff that all has to be done. So I've got to have to do it again. So we spent the entire day doing that, and it worked, and hopefully everything takes. And then we got all cleaned up. My wife's like, you know what? I says, what do you feel like doing? I feel like watching a movie, maybe a trilogy. And I was like, do you have one in mind?
Dennis is thinking Star Trek. Even though there's more than 3, I don't care.
Right.
We can watch the first 3.
Right. Or skip 3 and maybe just watch
3 Star Trek in general. It doesn't matter. Just 1, 2, 5.
Always the even ones in Star Trek.
Is that really it?
Yeah.
If you're going to watch Star Trek, you should watch 2, 4, 6.
Yep, they're the best ones. Absolutely serious. Absolutely serious.
6 is still Shatner?
Undiscovered Country.
And that's still Shatner?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Dude, I told you, I've said it before. I like Star Trek. I like Star Wars, but I'm not a Trekkie or a warrior. I just said that. I don't know if that's what they're called. I just like watching the movies, but I couldn't tell you how many of each. So really, there's 2, 4, 6, and 6 is the last one with Shatner. Right.
Technically, you can get into Generations where he actually dies and stuff like that. But as Trek fans... Yeah, and then the toys were always opposite. They had a great movie and didn't put out any toys, so they says, and the odd number movies, we're going to put out toys like Star Wars did. Well, then they were not good movies and the toys didn't sell.
No way.
Star Trek was kind of cursed in there. They just couldn't get it right. So I would have loved if she would have said Star Trek, but no. She goes, I want to watch the Fallen trilogy. And I was like, the Fallen trilogy?
She said that with no provoking of like, what about this?
No, this was all on her own volition. And I was like, oh, well, you and I had, of course, seen, the last one, which was Angel had fallen into the theater not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's why it's stuck in her head, but she goes, well, no. So for those of you who don't know, there was a 3-movie series, and it was Olympus Has Fallen, followed by London Has Fallen, and then the final one was Angel Has Fallen.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's an absolutely wonderful idea. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching them again because I never watched them all together.
But she's never seen them?
She had seen the original ones way back when, because I think the first one was like 2013.
Right.
So it was like 7 years ago, and then they did the sequel. So I know she's seen them at least once, but she never did see the third one.
Right. That was last
so
year.
I'm like, well, yeah, let's watch it. So that was the trilogy that we wound up doing. And since you and I had just seen the final one, I was like, well, this would be great to piece it together, because when you and I had seen it, I hadn't seen the original two in quite a while.
Sure.
I couldn't remember if they were really the same characters and stuff. And they pretty much were, with the exception of the wife. She winds up being a different actress in the third movie. Right.
Who?
Yeah.
Who's the... Because those movies for me kind of fall into the category of see them in the theater, one and done. And if they are on TV... like, on HBO or even, the first two are so old, they'd be on USA or whatever probably, that I've got to really, 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 really want to watch them again. So I can say I've seen each one probably once. So who was the actress that played the wife in the first two?
So in the last one, her name was Piper. And so she played it in the last movie, because I was like, oh, I don't think that's her.
Yeah.
And in the first one,
oh yeah, Piper. Yeah, I remember her from this last one we saw. And then the other one, London Bridge is falling down. Internet's going nice and slow. Well, forget you, Internet, while we're looking.
It died.
Was Morgan Freeman the same president?
Or
was there a different president?
So here was the fun part in going through it. So in the first two, Aaron Eckhart was the president.
That's what I thought. I didn't think it was Morgan Freeman.
And Gerard Butler, of course, was his secret surfer name. Yeah, Mike Banning, who was in his protection, so it was part of his detail. In the first one, it winds up North Korea takes them hostage in the White House.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They always say Korea, but you say right. Yeah. But I mean, it was a solid movie. It'd be like, what if it had lots of good special effects, an AC-120 or a 130 gunship coming in, shooting down all over Washington. You're like, wow, the special effects were really good. Oh, yeah. Not really plausible, but it was still a pretty decent action movie. Second one is London Has Fallen, and that's the same characters, and they wind up going over for the Prime Minister's funeral. And, while they were over there. And then Radha Mitchell, she's the one who played Leah Banning, which was his wife in the first two.
That's right. Well, they did a good job. They cast...
Right. Yeah. She looks very similar. Yeah. And unless you're a huge fan, you might not have noticed. But Morgan Freeman at that time, so in the first movie, he was the Speaker of the House, if I remember correctly.
Oh, so he was in the first one.
Oh, yeah.
He was the Speaker.
He became acting president when the president and the VP were in lockdown.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Then in the second one, he becomes the vice president, Alan Trumbull, right. And so he's dealing with that while the president was, they were trying to escape the terrorists over in London, and in the third movie, of course, by now Morgan Freeman is the president,
right?
And it was really, really cool because that one was completely different, where they actually had like the drones going up, and they literally blew up the entire detail. It was great.
They took out everything in Angel's Fall. I mean, I loved it. I loved seeing Nick Nolte as his dad.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I love Nick Nolte.
Yep,
and
I do too.
The way he looked in Angel Has Fallen is like his mugshot from how long ago was it? Like a decade ago?
Yep.
When he got busted, he had that mugshot where he was just all hair crazy. And
which is exactly how he looked in this movie.
Is exactly how he looked. Like, they cast him and they said, and Nick was probably like, all right, need to get a haircut. What do I need to do? They're like, no. Remember your mugshot? That is how we want you to look in this movie.
Yep.
That is exact. In fact, Nick Nolte's character in this movie, and like we talked about before, the campaign manager from Tiger King have one thing in common. F the feds.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
F the feds.
And he was a rat tunneler in the war, and so he actually would go into the tunnels and stuff in the other countries. So of course he built them himself, these countries, when it was a private team that had come on there, and that Danny Houston's the head of.
Oh yeah.
And we love Danny Houston, of course. For those of you, because we always have to bring it back to comic books.
Of course.
From X-Men Origins Wolverine, he played Stryker.
Yes.
Yep. He's a bad man. And Danny Houston winds up being the head of the organization. And of course, they're coming into the tunnels, and Nick Nolte's got everything wired.
Oh yeah, dude.
Boom.
Everything just blows up. Hey, if you're looking for something to watch while you're sheltered in place and you've got the time, it's a great trilogy. Highly recommend it. Very entertaining. I can't even say that 2's not as good as 1 or 3 or whatever. To me, they're all about the same caliber. And they're, especially if you can watch them back to back like that, because you're just rolling one right to another of a great.
That's just it. I had never watched them back to back, and it was great because they really are the same characters. It flows, little things happen between it. Great movie. I'm glad my wife picked it out. I wouldn't have thought to do that.
That is awesome. All right, so we're introducing a new little segment today.
New segment time.
New segment. Once again, if only we had cool music to put behind that. New segment time called Strange Tales.
Strange Tales.
From around the world. So boom, that's a long title. No copyright problem there with the Strange Tales Marvel comic. Thank you very much.
Right, because we know everything comes back around to comics.
That's right. So, I was reading, and apparently, merchandising's a huge thing for movies and stuff.
Yep.
So, big movie last year from Disney, Frozen 2, right?
Oh, yeah. Which my niece and nephew, I had to go with them to go see it. I mean, we saw Frozen 1, got to see 2.
It's on Disney Plus now. Give a little plug there. Sponsored by Disney Plus. This episode, sponsored by Disney Plus. Just throwing that out there.
Disney.
We're open for that sponsorship. We're cheap. Give us a nickel. Anyhow, so they put out their merchandise. And one of the pieces of merchandise they put out was a Frozen 2 diary for your kid to write in.
Oh.
And, like most things, diaries like that for the young age range, they have prompts. So, they'll have pages with printed text on it to kind of, help jumpstart your child on, what to write, ideas, thoughts, whatever, compared to, well, I don't journal and I've never had a diary, so I assume most journals and diaries are blank. Dennis, what's your secret diary? Is it blank or did it have prompts?
Believe it or not, I also never diaried.
Get out of here.
I wrote stories and stuff like that. I thought you were a big journaler. You didn't,
not like that? At night, after a long day of high school, you didn't, dear diary.
Nope. Never did anything of the sort. Neither does my wife. That is not one thing we did.
With the dream of finding X-Men #1, signed by Stan Lee. Dear diary.
Well, that's not a diary. That's a to-do list.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. So coming out of the UK, a mum, as they say, was left completely gobsmacked after she found X-rated content inside her young daughter's Frozen 2 diary. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, somebody went to a store, popped open a diary, and wrote naughty stuff in it, and then some unsuspecting mother buys it without checking it out first?
Well, that's what I would assume would happen, because diaries are blank, or they have lines in it.
No.
Oh. Was there printed
This diary
material?
had a printed page that literally said on it, when you opened it up, and going by the picture I'm looking at, it looks like it was towards the back of the book, so like writing prompts. Except instead of writing prompts, this page was in there from the printer that said things like positions, anal sex, cowgirl, doggy style, kneeling head. It had a list of sex positions in a Frozen 2 diary. And if that's not bad enough...
There's more?
There's more. It had a list of sex toys, anal beads, Benoit balls. Now, if it's Frozen 2 diary, I could see snowballs.
What?
Not as a sex toy, but at least, snowballs. But Benoit balls.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this as a sex toy. Blindfold.
What? Wow.
And the list goes on, but some of these just make me...
There's nothing specific like an Olaf blindfold? It's literally...
No, not Olaf's Benoit balls. Maybe those are the little lumps of coal on them. Those are the Benoit balls. You do have a furry plug, which, full disclosure, I'm not a kinky type. I've heard of most of it. I know what anal beads are. I know what Benoit balls are. Don't know what a furry plug is.
Huh.
Not Googling it either.
No.
Don't care enough.
And can you imagine your 6, 7, 4, 5-year-old picking this up?
Well, here's the thing in the story. The daughter she bought it for is only 5.
Okay.
She's in preschool. She's just at the cusp, I guess, of reading is what they say. So she didn't know any of that stuff or could read any of it. Like, she probably could read the word balls and simple words, but, anal sex, stuff like that. The thing that I find kind of funny, I don't know if this was a shrink wrap thing, because some stuff does come shrink wrap, but did the mom not even flip through it? I mean, you wouldn't think you have to, because it's a frozen diary.
I was just going to say, honestly, if I was buying a diary for my kids at that age or my niece and nephew...
You just would have picked it up?
I would have looked at it and said, oh, Frozen 2, the cover had both characters. It had Elsa and on it. I would have looked at it and said, oh, that's awesome. Boom. And I would have picked it up and handed it to him.
And they're not topless on the cover, so that's not they're clothed. So that's no indication of anything.
It was not meant to be a rated X book.
But, however, looking at the picture, it is a diary that can be locked. So, yeah, it does have that little clasp on it so you can lock it.
So now, do they call it a diary or a journal?
Oh, no. It is a Frozen 2, Believe in the Journey diary.
Diary?
It's a Frozen 2, Believe in the Journey diary, and she got it as a gift for her daughter's 5th birthday. Happy birthday!
Well. Hey, mother. Or I should say, you're right, it was British. So, Mum, what's this?
Mum, what's her anal beads? See, that was... I cannot do an accent. I'm just curious. It's like, this is what I'd like to know, not in the story. Did the mom take it from her? Obviously she was shocked and throw it right in the garbage and write an email and complain. Or did she take it from her, write an email and complain, and then show her husband and go, well, all's not lost. We now have our own diary.
Oh, I was going to say,
what should we do first?
Maybe she substituted it with Ariel's diary or something like that, and then her and her husband just kept that one.
That's what I'm saying.
Any of the other Disney princesses, maybe they just swapped it out.
And this was in a UK Kmart store, by the way, which I didn't know they had Kmarts over there, but I've also never been over there, so... So
are they Kmarts over there, or are they big Ks?
No, it says... hold on. It says... it says Kmart.
Oh. Well, I did not know that. I don't remember seeing any last time I was in London, but...
It says she purchased the book at a Kmart store in Brisbane.
I'll be darned. Yeah. Well, we learn something every day.
Shocking.
Well...
What you got?
I also have a strange tale.
Ooh.
Mine's also, I guess you could say, comic book related. And we will definitely have to throw up a link to this. The catch title is Man Opens a Tin of Spider-Man Pasta from 1995. And the contents are as gross as you'd expect. So, for a little background, in 1995, Chef Boyardee put out, it would be like their version of SpaghettiOs. Or nowadays it's like ABC 1, 2, 3s, which of course my nephew can't get enough of that. it's the same kind of thing, only back then they were in the shape of like Spider-Man, and they were shaped pasta. Well, this gentleman who Twittered it,
God.
his name is Matt. He had the tin of the pasta from 1995 and decided to take a look inside and show off the contents just to see if people would be interested in it. So his name on Twitter is Dinosaur Dracula. And I said, well, we'll put a post up there so you'll be able to follow it. And it says, I have a wildly corroded can of Spider-Man pasta from 1995. And if this gets 1,995 retweets, I'll show you what's inside. And obviously, you surpassed it.
I was hoping he'd say he was going to cook it up and try to eat it.
Well, apparently it went viral, and he had 14,000 likes and more than 5,000 retweets. So he opened it up. And it says, this is the quote on his Twitter post, they say tragedy plus times equals comedy, but there's nothing funny about 15 ounces of Spider-Man pasta reduced to a rotted 3-ounce chunk.
Wait, how many ounces was it originally supposed to be?
15 ounces.
And now it's 3?
Yes. And then there'll be a picture of it, and it is gross. He goes, I carefully removed the mass, which looks like a cross between Big Thunder Mountain and one of those Genosha hives from Star Wars Attack of the Clones. And it is just gross.
It looks like a dump, honestly.
It does.
It looks like a dump. Let's be real.
However, he does show on there, because there's a picture of it, what the Spider-Man pasta should look like.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually finds, if you spin it around, you'll actually see one side of it. You can actually see the Spider-Man pasta in this turd-looking thing stuck right there. It's just amazing. It is so gross looking.
Now, I guess one question I have is, and I'm being serious, is if the can was never open, right? Never open.
Yep.
It's sealed. I mean, it's air sealed. No air can get in it.
Correct.
So why would it degrade like that? No air can get in it.
You're right. In theory, you would think now the contents might not be edible. So that makes you wonder, was there, it would take like a pin-sized hole.
Yeah, I bet there had to be.
But it was also rusted, wildly rusted and corroded. So all it takes is for the corrosion, I would assume, to go through, because when you see the contents, it is just dark and dry. So I bet enough rust went through and air somehow got in.
I was going to say, air got in there. That is just disgusting.
Now I have not experienced this, so we'll put the link so you'll see it. But we had come in one day. Somebody had, if you remember the original Batman movie, Michael Keaton, and then when the Joker, they did a cereal for it. And somebody brought in just a couple of years ago an unopened box of cereal.
Real?
You did.
Did you open it?
You had to.
Did you try it?
You smelt it first. And it smelt really... let's see, how can you describe it? Stale doesn't even begin to do it justice.
Really?
You knew it wasn't really edible. And if you did, you probably might run the risk of running to the hospital to get your stomach pumped. Now, again, it was sealed, but it wasn't vacuum sealed, because if you think about when you open a box of cereal, there's cereal, there's air in it.
Oh, yeah.
So oxidation naturally, happens. But it was still really, really cool to see what it was like in its original package. It still looked good. It's like McDonald's French fries. Oh. You can leave them out for 12 weeks and they'll still look like the day that they took them out of the fryer. Right. But they're not good.
It's disgusting. That is so gross. I can't think of anything that we've had. I mean, we found stuff in our pantry that's maybe, it's in the pantry, so it's in a box or something, unopened. It's maybe a couple years old, like graham crackers or something. And my wife's first go-to, and unopened go-to is just chuck it. And I'm like, whoa, hold on now. Graham crackers, couple years old, never been open. We can give it a shot. Why you gotta be throwing stuff away automatically? I mean, my wife's the type that's like, oh, this turkey lunch meat says it expires today. We must throw it away. And I'm like, whoa, today. If it expires today, I will eat it 3 days from now. Unless there's junk growing on it. Today, it's not a light switch. Oh, it's the 20th. That turkey, open it up. It's green.
No, so the thing is, you don't know. We just had this happen. So we had like 2 jugs of milk in the fridge. One skim, one's 2%. It is. But my wife just poured me. She was just putting some cereal together, and she handed me a bowl, and I took a bite, and I was like, oh. It was like corn. Now, understand, this was not a corn cereal.
Yeah.
But I was like, you could smell it. I was like, oh my God, it is so bad. And I was like, she goes, what? The milk can't be bad. I just had some yesterday, and the expiration date says it's good through tomorrow. Yeah, it lied. Maybe that was a born-on date. I don't know. But, it was awful. Had to dump the entire thing out. Oh. And as soon as you opened the jug up, then you had to smell it. You're like, oh, cream of corn. Cream of corn.
That's disgusting. Well, because we like to end on a high note. That's a high note.
Is it?
I say, yeah. we gave them a tip. Smell your milk before you use it.
Yeah, exactly. A great tip. So for next week, one thing we were talking about that we'll bring up is, what was the first rated R movie you had seen? So give it some thought.
Give it some thought. Yeah, we'll talk about our first rated R movies and a prank that a woman pulled on her boyfriend when he was asleep. That is the tease you get.
Yes. Well, for that, we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Until next week, grab your 3D glasses.
Get your favorite comic books, roll them up, and put them in your back pocket the way you should treat comics.
Throw your pigskin up on the mantle. This is Dennis.
This is Andy. Later friends.